What's going on, guys? Welcome to Titanfall, the game that lets you slingshot through the air and land on a giant flying titan. So for those of you making the transition from Apex Legends to Titanfall, welcome aboard, pilot. Today's mission is going to be to catch you up on everything that is Titanfall 2. I'm going to be going over guns, which you're actually going to be familiar with a few. This is the double take, known as a triple take in Apex Legends. This is one of our executions. So you're going to see a lot of similarities from Titanfall 2 to Apex Legends. They ripped a lot of the core material from this game, but what they left out is actually the most unique aspect of it. And it's the one that you're going to need to get down the fastest, and that's your mobility in the form of bunny hops and wall runs. So this isn't going to be a super in-depth video in any one mechanic. I'm just going to be generally showing you everything so you can at least see what's possible. I've always been a big advocate of at least showing people what you can do in Titanfall, so then you can get an idea of what you can work towards. And there are two very different perspectives that you're going to get out of this game. One's from somebody like myself and other veterans, and newer players. Sometimes you guys are going to see huge imbalances in the game, especially when it comes to pilots versus titans gameplay. That's why a lot of newer players seem to be going into pilots versus pilots, because they find it a lot easier to understand. And I understand that concern as well. That's the problem with jumping into a game that's 2.5 years old without knowing too much, and there being two very different mechanics and just generally different gameplay than you're used to. Right now I'm just farming grunts, and I'm using a grenadier weapon. Some people may just see me come across, kill them, and they may think that this weapon's overpowered. However, when you're playing against somebody that knows a little bit more about the game, they know to just stay off surfaces, and they're generally safe against a Cold War. I also know that it's not just about pilot kills. Minion kills count for a lot in this game, and most first-person shooters don't have minions. So this is also part of the learning curve if you're going to be playing attrition, which in my opinion is the best game type for Titanfall. And there you go, I'm first to drop, and I didn't actually have to do that much. I think this is something that a newer player could pull off, as long as you're familiar with how to boost your meter. And the boost meter, which you see on the bottom left, which is at 20% right now, increases when you're in your Titan whenever you're doing damage. Same thing when you're a pilot. But when you're a pilot, two things happen. You're charging your boost, which is your extra ability, I guess you can call it. You can get things like batteries for your Titans, you can get map hacks, so those are things that build up, and then at the end of that, you get your Titan. It's also important to know that you do get a multiplier for scoring more points without dying. As soon as you die, you end up losing what you haven't completely earned, and when you're a pilot, that's distinguished between a yellow bar and a blue bar. If you end up dying, you lose that yellow bar. A smart thing to do is to just finish up streaks that almost give you your Titan by killing some minions instead of going for pilots, which are riskier. When you're getting into the mid game and the late game, the best way to earn meter is typically by putting damage on opposing Titans. And if you're new to Titanfall, you may be asking, how do I do that? I suggest you either take the laser, which I think is by far the best weapon. Not only does it do good damage against Titans and Titans that like to camp, which unfortunately there's a lot of them, it's also particularly good against pilots who like to camp. It's also good for trick-shotting people as they eject from their Titan. If a pilot happened to jump on my back, I can use one of my abilities, my cluster missile, against a wall, and that would just get him off me. Right now you're going to see me fly across this level. Ronin can actually use his teleport and a dash to get across. There's just so many tricks in this game. I honestly don't think I could get through them all in one video. I would just end up missing stuff, or it would be the longest video ever. Because of all the mechanics in this game, you can just get super creative, and that's why I'm still playing this game and why I enjoy it so much. So if you really want to get into this game, I do suggest you watch some videos, because there are so many mechanics, and a lot of them are just, it's not something that you've done before. So if you really want to know a little bit more, check out a few good videos. I would suggest first just going over the mobility so you know how you can get around, and then you can start feeling out the weapons. But for the most part, don't use any of the weapons I'm using. I don't think they're good starter weapons. I'm using projectile weapons, which means they all have travel time, but there is insta-hit weapons, which are a lot easier to use and is what I suggest you start with. From Apex Legends, you probably noticed how good the Spitfire is. It's that good in this game too, if not better. So it's a good all-around weapon, but I do think it'll hinder your mobility because it's one of the harder weapons to use on the move. You're just going to feel a lot more comfortable standing still and just strafing like a normal FPS game. So in that sense, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. I think you should start out with a car, very user-friendly. If you want something similar to that, then you'd be using the alternator. I think those two are probably by far the best, if not the R201. That is also a very solid weapon. Just like Apex Legends, it's just a very reliable gun. If you're somebody that likes to snipe in games, you are going to find that this game is not going to feel quite like any other when it comes to sniping. It's particularly hard. I wasn't worried because I had him at a one hit, but when he puts up that wall, now I have to reposition. I just need one hit. But see, that's the familiarity. I'm familiar with what I need in order to get away. You're going to see it here when I end up making a retreat, and then I also end up doing a move that a lot of you guys probably wouldn't even expect as possible, but I've been playing this game for a long time. I've also been following the community for a long time. So these are not all things that I just figured out on my own. It's just things that I've gradually picked up throughout the life of the game. Usually what I like to do in most of my videos is make a montage just to kind of show you some of the newer tricks or just kind of the coolest things and the epitome of what Titanfall is. And then usually I try to explain a little bit of what's going on in the thought process of how I make these decisions or how the mechanics work and things like that. And I'm also one of the last remaining consistent YouTubers for Titanfall, so if this is what you're into, this is the channel for you. Yeah, I'm really into the grappling hook, so you're going to see a lot of grappling hook videos, but you're also going to see a lot of other things. And I have themes, so if you guys are looking for something specific, usually just going off the title will tell you what's going to be in the video. But I do take a lot of tangents because I really like talking about gameplay, and when I see something that catches my eye, I just have to talk about it, so... That was easy enough. That was just a gravity star. It stops all their momentum. I could have also used my grappling hook. There's multiple ways to get people out of an eject. I've seen people talk about Ronin, so I do want to go and get into some Titans as well because that is a big part of the game. I want to show you guys a little bit of what each Titan can do and just kind of how to play against it, because I don't think you guys should be playing too much pilots versus pilots. You're just missing half of the game. So go ahead and jump into some attrition. I know you guys are going to probably get rocked, but it's honestly a lot of fun. This Titan, I keep seeing this on Reddit lately that people think he's so weak, and I remember at the beginning of the game's life, everybody did think he was weak because we weren't familiar with his sword block, which is really his best ability. It, what does it take damage down by, like 70%, so for those of you who think he's a tissue, it's like, yeah, he is a tissue, but as long as you are holding on to your block, then you're able to negate a lot of damage. Between that and your phase dash and your extra dashes in general, this Titan is actually very safe because you're able to position yourself in places that other Titans don't want you. There's just a lot of things that Ronin has going for it once you put together all the mechanics. Okay, you can't run away, you put up your block. You get tether trapped, you can either shoot it or you can use, again, your phase dash. The phase dash actually ends up getting you out of so many scenarios. It's just like the phase shift, it's just an oh shit button. And it works so well with that Titan. You may phase into some other Titan or a Reaper and you can blow up, but all the veterans know that when you use your phase dash and there's a lot of action around you, you hold your block so you don't end up just dying. This clip in particular is interesting because the only reason I recorded is because they had one of those Ronins that is just constantly blocking, and as a veteran I find it annoying for two reasons. They require a lot of attention, and they also require a lot of DPS in order to actually kill them and to bypass that shield. And because of the fast nature of Titanfall, as a pilot or even a Titan, taking that much focus on one character leaves you very vulnerable against all the other pilots that are flying around and all the other Titans in this game. Did you know, well, that was a grapple, eject grab, but did you also know that a Ronin can phase dash at the exact time they're getting their battery pulled and end up not losing any shields or any health? Did you know that? So Ronin has a lot of tricks, just like all the other Titans. Every Titan has these tricks. This game is just full of them. So it's not something you're going to be good at right away. So expect to get killed. Everybody coming in is new for whatever reason, whether it be Apex Legends, but I think it's a nice transition because some of the things do cross over. But again, you're going to need to learn all these mobility things. You're going to need to pick these up and just kind of learn a little bit more about all of our weapons and all of our counters before you start complaining, because there's a good chance that you're just not understanding what's going on. This is complex. This is one of the best maps for Scorch, a Titan that is generally low tier. But it has the situations where they actually perform really well. When you start playing high tier Titanfall, you're not only paying attention to the team's pilots, you're also paying attention to the composition of their Titan. When are they dropping? Where are they dropping? That determines what ordnance you're going to use, as well as what anti-Titan weapon you're going to use. Some Titans are way more vulnerable to certain anti-Titan guns. There's also the high risk reward of using things like an archer rocket against a lot of NORTHSTAR on the backfield. They have abilities to dodge it, but if you manage to hit them, you end up doing a lot of damage. It's going to depend what kind of game you're also going to be playing. Are you going to be playing a long game? Are you going to be playing the short game? So don't think that this game is as uneven as it looks, though I do agree that there's a lot of things that make it seem uneven. Lack of matchmaking is going to make it seem very uneven. The Titan steamroll and snowballing is also real, so there's a lot of things that are legitimate, but a lot of them are not always just going to be as simple as X and Y. Sometimes you're going to find that you just get flanked a lot and you're like, oh, I'm just getting constantly flanked, or you're just getting constantly killed by a Spitfire. But that's because you're going up against a team that keeps distracting you, and then you're vulnerable to their long line of sight players. Like, there's just a lot of factors. I've never found that this game is particularly straightforward when it comes to determining why you lost or why you think something is overpowered. Sometimes it's just a scenario you were put in that makes it seem a lot stronger than it actually is. That's why when you see me destroy you with a grenadier weapon, it's not always because grenadiers are good. It's probably because I used it on levels that made it particularly strong, just like my Titan. There are places that you're going to be getting away with not using top tier Titans or pilot abilities or weapons because the map actually suit them a lot better. Most people know that in this map, you grab an archer, you shoot it down a hallway, and you practically get your Titan. That's just the way it is, and if you know how to make these transitions, which you're not going to know right away, but again, if you kind of watch these kind of videos or just watch better players than you, you're going to understand a little bit more about Titanfall, and you're going to enjoy it so much more. And that is pretty much the end of this video. And this is the time where you freeloaders start leaving a like, leaving a comment. If you're new to the channel and want to see more Titanfall, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, because we are pretty much the only place to get high tier Titanfall footage with good commentary. At least I like to think so. Otherwise, we're going to continue to be doing some Apex Legends, and that is pretty much it. I am going to be mixing it up. You guys know how I like to do. We're just going to continue to have fun with these new games. I don't know why Titanfall all of a sudden feels new to me, just because there are new players, I guess. But I think a lot of people are feeling the revival of Titanfall too, so there's definitely some life energy coming from all you new players, so I'm glad to have you. And remember to be nice out there, especially you veterans. You know you don't actually need to be using all these fully automatic guns. Let them have their fun. Let the newbies... What is this guy doing? Okay, I get it. Alright, we can be friends. See? It's that simple, guys. He's trying to kill him. I'm like, not on my watch. I'd take a bullet for you, friend. I'll even try to point my laser in his eye so he can't see you. I got you. Really? The great betrayal. I'm tainted. I'm bringing out my alternator. You can blame this guy. You're all going down.